So again, it's to think about like, okay, who am I trying to target? How can I target them? Where do they hang out? How can I target them? And then you've got to come up with different strategies in order to target them, rather than just thinking, I'm just going to make a ton of organic content, post every day, and that's going to hit every single person that I want to target. It doesn't work like that. What's up, guys? Rich here. Thanks for tuning in to the 2610 podcast, where me and the boys talk about how you can use content the right way to grow and scale your business. If you find this episode useful, then please share with a fellow entrepreneur, marketer, founder, or anyone else who might also get some value from it, and let's all grow together. With that said, let's jump straight into it.
So what common mistakes do you think people make when using social media to grow their audience?
Yeah, I think first of all, the key thing there is growing their audience. Like, you know, we see a lot of people just trying to grow their following. And I think following and audience are two different things. Now, hear me out. Some people would disagree, but I think audience is much more like, for example, I know that the BBC exists. I don't watch it unless Match of the Day is on, right? So I'm an audience of Match of the Day, but I'm like a follower, I guess, of BBC, you could call, right? Because I know it exists, same as maybe on Instagram, social media. I follow a lot of accounts, but I'm not interested in what they do. Like, I need a clean out. And a lot of people probably are the case. So I think people focus on having a number and growing their number to get more reach, which you get. Like, it's important, of course, but I think audience is a completely different entity. I think audience are the people that you can turn to, you know, who's going to show up to your live, who's going to ask you questions in your Q&A, who are going to interact in your posts, who are going to be involved in the next sale or the new product that you launch. Like, so that is the common mistake that I see. People think that an audience is their following, and actually a lot of the time it isn't. And I said this before, but I think anyone can get views. And I really do believe that audience is much more, and I've had first-hand experience of this. There's influencers, personal brands, people out there earning a lot of money from not having a huge following. Yeah. They've just got a really fucking solid audience that show up and that are really invested in what they do. And it might only be a couple of hundred people. But if that couple of hundred people spend their disposable income on you every single month, that's much more valuable than having 1 million followers. They don't actually really know what you are, who you are, what you do, what you're selling. Like, so I think that is, again, a common mistake that people make. I think people should really look to just like, again, tell the story, you know, like just really show and connect with the right people, who their target audience is, and be authentic, I think is the main thing here. Too many people try and fit in on social media and in the real world, and I think being yourself will be a lot more, you'll get a lot more connection from a lot more people. I think just being yourself, because you'll be surprised how many people are like you, are like your weird self as well. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think the character side of things again is a massive thing. Like you're saying, you just got to be unique. And I feel like having that like clear strategy where you know where you're going with like your business or brand, rather than trying to copy what someone else has done. I feel like that happens so often now that you'll see, I don't know, you'll be scrolling on Instagram or TikTok and there's so many things that are the same, like businesses and brands, and they're using the same strategies because they're just like, oh, well, I've seen this guy do it, so I'm now going to do it. And sometimes it just doesn't work because that person has created that strategy and connected with their audience through that. If you're then trying to do the same thing, they're just going to be like, well, I saw this further up the page, they've got more followers, I'm going to go with them. Whereas if you have a bit more of a clearer strategy and plan it better, I feel like you would then generate that audience that you're looking for, in a sense.
And what would you say to anyone that is like, okay then, Scott, great, well, how do I make a strategy? Like, what are you, like, what defines as a strategy? Because my strategy right now is, by the end of the year, I mean, that's more of a goal, but by the end of the year, I want to get X amount of followers, and to do that, I'm going to post every day. Is that a good enough strategy, or what would you recommend?
I think consistency is important. I feel like if you're not consistent, it's easy just to lose an audience like that. It works in brands, businesses, like video content. Yeah, I feel like you've got to offer something. It's got to be valuable to someone. Like for example, like I'm just trying to think of some of the people that I watch. There's like don't mock me for this, but I'm into my like spiritual kind of stuff. And there's like this guy, I can't pronounce his name, so don't. It's like Master Shri, something like that. Look him up on YouTube, you'll find him. And I'll go to his channel to learn more things. So that's the value I'm getting, is that he's educating me in that way. I feel like if you're a brand, something like that, you need to kind of like offer like something valuable in that sense. You've got to be engaging to, I guess, your customers in that sense.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's just about building some kind of relationship where they'll come to your page and they'll take something away from it, rather than just they'll come to you to be like, oh, I don't know. For example, let's say like Boohoo Man. I shop there quite a lot. I don't take anything away from their page, and I know that a lot of clothing companies now are going down the route of sending trendy tweets to try and connect to their audience. I do not pay attention to them. Like, I've seen so many comical like quote tweets to them where they'll try and like do a trendy tweet, and someone will just be like, yeah, but where's my order?
Yeah. No, exactly. But I think it is important though to.
What would go on? What would you say like is if like from your perspective as a business, what's like a good and effective strategy?
Yeah, so I think what you've sort of said there is pretty much what I would say, but just to simplify it, is to like just identify, first of all, so you've got to set it up and identify your target market is the first stage of strategizing content. Like work out, like think about who you're trying to connect with. For example, if you've got a hair gel, then you could be targeting people that use hair gel. So like me and you, I mean, I don't use hair gel, but just hear me out. You could also be targeting supermarkets, online stores. You could also be targeting hairdressers and those sort of areas, right? So then you've got your three target markets. You've got your three essential people who you want to target. Then what you've got to do is you've got to decide upon your pillars of content that are going to reach those people. So like basically deciding how you're going to reach those. So where do they hang out would be the first question that I would ask. So where are me and you hanging out on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, stuff like that? Where are maybe the decision makers at somewhere like Superdrug or Boots hanging out? Probably more on LinkedIn, right? Where is maybe a business owner or like a hairdresser, like a chain, right, of hairdressing companies across London? Where are they hanging out? Again, probably a mix of both. Maybe they're on Twitter a little bit more. So then you decide, okay, what am I going to do to reach that person? So on TikTok, Instagram, you're going to make short form videos showing how your product works, showing how it's better than competitors, showing the price point of view, showing where to get it, showing sort of like some maybe trendy stuff that is like, like little challenge videos, how you like style your hair in different ways, whatever. And then for the other people, how to target Boots and stuff. This is probably more outreach. And this is where I think people expect the wrong sort of results, because like advertising and organic is two different things. And I think you mentioned consistency there. I think that's the biggest driver in everything that they do. And I'm getting a bit off track here. I will go back, but I think people expect results tomorrow. And a lot of the time that just comes from advertising. Like, if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, I want to grow our followers and I want to make more sales and I want it to start next week. Okay, have you considered putting out a video ad? Like, because what we're talking about here isn't going to do that necessarily. Like, we do organic stuff, and doing organic stuff isn't going to generate sales tomorrow. It's not going to happen. This is going to be a long-term gain. You've got to be able to play that game. And so you've got to accept that sometimes in your strategy, the people you're trying to reach aren't necessarily going to engage with your organic strategy. So maybe you would put ads out on LinkedIn showing how your product, again, is better, more price efficient, how people, like on Instagram, everyone's going mad for it. It's super popular. You should really get it in your stores. and then, some outreach as well, some cold emailing, trying to get into the right sort of like areas to discuss that, to get your product into their stores. And then the third people, that person who is maybe like, just running a hairdressing company, like they're going to be super busy, right? Like they're going to be probably going to all of their different things. So probably not get any time for social media at all. So you're wanting to go into these stores directly yourself, or send someone in from your team to show what your product does, to offer it maybe as a free sample, to offer it to their customers and to see if they like it, and you'll give them a discount, whatever. So again, it's to think about like, okay, who am I trying to target? How can I target them? Where do they hang out? How can I target them? And then you've got to come up with different strategies in order to target them, rather than just thinking, I'm just going to make a ton of organic content, post every day, and that's going to hit every single person that I want to target. It doesn't work like that. And as soon as people start thinking in this way, and really and that's why strategy is so important. I guess we've kind of got lost here because the overall question was to grow your audience, but I think it's good value nonetheless.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Do you feel like oh no, yeah, I completely agree with your elongated answer that we do this a lot. We go off track.
It's just what we do.
But yeah, no, I was gonna follow up with what you were just saying about obviously people having time on social media while running their business. So utilizing like social media a bit, do you feel like you got like Q&As on stories, you've got like webinars, live streams and things like that. That's a good way to connect to your audience. So, I mean, yeah, like if someone's busy, they're obviously gonna need someone to help them do that. But do you feel like that's a good strategy to help connect with your customers or audience, to help build your business or brand more?
I think it's important to test. I think we never know. There's no one right answer here. I think, for some people going live, you look at, what was his name, PewDiePie back in the day, like going live worked really well for him, right? But maybe not so much for someone that is, running a startup. So I guess it's horses for courses, I guess the saying is. Like it very much depends on what you're doing, and it's important to test. I think like Twitter will work really well for some people. I think video content will work well for everyone, no matter who you are. Short form videos in particular will work extremely well right now. Who's to say that in a year's time it's oversaturated? We don't know. But at least for the time being, it's the minimum that you should be doing. And then after that, like, I don't see any harm in doing Q&As. But to build your audience, really, like, you've got to be able to have an audience before you can go live and have a Q&A. Because again, you might have a following, but until you sort of go live and interact and really, you're not going to know how much of an audience you have. And I think that's where it's important to measure as well. Because people get so fixated on instant success and instant gratification. TikTok has brought about a lot of that in recent times, much to our demise, I guess, as a human race. But really and truly, like, if you are tracking it, I don't see how you can post every day from now into the rest of 2023 and not gain followers and not gain an audience. I just don't see how that happens. Yeah. Unless your video content, unless what you're talking about is complete bullshit and what you're saying no one agrees with, and all of these things, even then you're probably still going to build an audience, honestly, because it's going to be so controversial. I just don't see how that happens. Like, in today's day and age, I don't see it, because 99% of the people spend 99% of their time, free time anyway, on social media and taking content. So it's going to happen in 100%. One way or another, and it's just about tracking what is working well. And like, so once you strategize, to backtrack here, once you strategize, then think about, how am I going to track this? How am I going to measure it? And not enough people do that, I don't think. Like, really measure it to the point where you're like literally writing every single aspect down of every single thing that you're doing, tracking week in, week out, each platform, each bit of content. Why did it work? Why didn't it work? Writing weekly reports and really tracking everything. And then after the first quarter, you'll be able to make an assertive decision. Okay, this is working, this isn't. Okay, let's drop this. Let's spend more time doing this. After Q2, you'll be able to do that again, Q3, Q4. In 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it might take that long. Sorry to break it to anyone listening. But you'll be able to, you'll be in such a position where you know what works, you know what doesn't. And you might not think that you've grown your audience by that much at that point. You might only have 50,000 followers in 10 years. And to a lot of people, what have you been doing? But where you will have a huge advantage is at that point, you'll be like, I know exactly what works and exactly what doesn't. And from there, every single
Yeah.
bit of content that you put out from that point will be working. And what I mean by working is it's hitting your target audience. Regardless of how many views it's getting, your target audience is being hit by that, and it's actually having an impression on them. It's resonating, and ultimately you're connecting with them. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so what you're saying is just identify what's working, what's not working, and then you can just adjust like your strategies or the way that you're posting, the things that you're posting. And then obviously by doing this, you're initially just improving the performance to build your business or brand and gain that following base that you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. One thing we always say in our business, Scott, 2610, we always say one thing that will never change is our goal, but our systems might change in order to get to that goal. And it should be the same for content. It's one thing that will never change is what we're trying to achieve. So like really why are we doing content? Like I spoke to a potential client the other day on a call, and they were like, we want to make all this content. I was like, why? They're like, we want more sales. Okay, great. What content are you thinking of making? Can I show you? Sure. So she showed me, and the content wasn't very, that's being polite, it wasn't very good. And I was like, look, I just don't know if this is going to work. And she was like, but we've got a lot of it, so I want to make that content. I'm like, okay, let's just go back a little bit. Let's talk about why we're doing this again. To make more sales, to grow an audience, to get more reach. Okay, again, this content isn't going to do that. So we're making this content for the wrong reasons. So your goal should never change. The goal of why you make content should always remain the same. Our goal of making this content is to give value to people who otherwise might not know what we're talking about, to help people, right? To help them grow their business. That's our goal. So the strategies in which we need to adapt to hit that goal will change over time as we work out what works and what doesn't. And you know, maybe you would argue there, well, Rich, you should have just made that content to show then that it doesn't work. But, you know, you've got to trust, you know, we've been doing this a long time. We've got to trust like what we know, what we like. At the end of the day, I just didn't want her to spend that money and then be like, you know, it's just a waste of time and waste of money from everyone's part. And I'm not in the business to just like steal from people. We could easily go out tomorrow and get 100 clients to steal from in effect. And I don't want to do that. I want to like bring value and actually bring success to companies. And, I just knew that wasn't going to work. And yeah, she's going to have to reconsider that ultimately. But again, the overlying thing here is your goal should stay the same. Your strategy and structure will change over time in order to make that goal. And it's like something that we adapt inside us as well.
Yeah, and what you're saying there kind of just goes back to the points we made previously about obviously not having a clear strategy, irrelevant content maybe that could fall into from what obviously what you're describing there. And obviously in that sense you're just not engaging with your followers, and you're not going to build the business or brand in that way. I think I feel like we've had that a couple of times. There's just no kind of like future goal. It's kind of, well, we have content to make and we want to get followers.
Yeah.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
No, it's not enough to commit to the future of your business or brand. It's enough for being relevant for the next couple of weeks, but if you're looking long term, maybe not.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's really important. And what I don't want anyone to get confused here. Like an example of this would be, we have a podcast and we want to turn it into short form. Like we've got a million and one podcast episodes. We want to turn it into short form content. Why? To get more reach, to then send more people to the podcast, to ultimately, you know, let them know what we're talking about, right? Like that's a good enough reason. Because the podcast is good, right? And that's where they're directing them to. But the issue here was the product was good. Like she knew this lady, who will go unnamed for the duration of this, she's very knowledgeable on her subject matter. She's like, the product is very good in what she's selling, but the content she was making inside of that was not good enough for social media. It might have been good enough for, at the time, in the moment, to tell her current customers X, Y, Z, but for social media, it wasn't going to be good enough. So the goal to build the business should then go to the strategy, which then should be, how do we do this? Well, we've got to make content, good content, about XYZ to then bring people to it. It shouldn't just be like, oh, the strategy, we've got a load of content, it's not really good enough. And she openly said that as well. She knew it wasn't good enough herself, which I didn't get. I was like, this isn't making any sense. Please explain to me. You don't think it's good enough, but you're willing to invest X to come on with us for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, to in 6 months' time still be having the same conversation. Well, I want to make better content to grow my brand. It's like, why not start that way?
It comes back to the determining like the return of investment as well with that situation. It's like you said, that person knew that it wasn't good enough content, but was still willing to spend money on it, with the risk of, okay, I want to spend all this money, but I'm not going to get any return of investment. So in a sense, you're setting up for failure. Yeah, you're setting up for, and that sounds harsh, but I feel like it is more of a just making businesses and brands aware that, like, always have like these measures of success in place, because, like, going back to what I just said to start this, is like determining the return of investment. If you're going to be investing into something, you want to see a return. Obviously, we always say don't expect return straight away. It will come, but going all in with the risk of just failing straight away, is a no.
Yeah, you might as well give that money to a charity, in all fairness, or you might as well just, again, right, like, what you're trying to achieve, get more sales, get more people to get eyes on you, go and run an ad, like, if that's what you want to do, because organic content, it is not for the faint-hearted. It really isn't. It's a long grind, like, especially now, like, it's even harder because TikTok is so easy to get views. That's what makes it harder. People think that's what makes it easier. So it makes it harder because your expectation levels are in the clouds before you even start. You think, I'm going to make this, I'm going to blow up. And you will blow up at least one time in the first 3 months. One video will go crazy and you're like, and then it's what happens after that. It's what happens when you're putting out content after content after content and you are getting next to nothing in terms of views and in terms of engagement. And you've got to do that not only day on end, week on end, you might even have to do that year on end before you even start to see results. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And so for any business listening, if you've got the budget for this, commit to it, and really do commit to it. Sit down and go, right, I'm in this for the long game. And we talk about long game, whether some people go, I'm in this for the long game, 6 months. It's like,
all the time.
That is not long game. Like, we're talking 10 years here of full on grind. And if anyone thinks I'm talking shit, go and look at Mr. Beast's story. We're talking about stories a minute ago. Go and look at Mr. Beast's story. The guy was doing it from what he calls a trailer park for best part of 6 years or something, on like a shitty little GoPro, and like just grinding. It doesn't happen overnight. And people look at it, and then the end result, we think, oh, this is so easy. Look at, he's doing this and I could do that. It's like, yeah, but it takes a lot of time. And I forgot where I was going with this. So if you don't have a budget and you really need to make content to make sales, then just go and advertise. Just advertise. If you've got a limited budget and you want instant success, organic content is not the way to go. So don't even try and grow an audience, because it's not going to work for you. Growing an audience, to summarize this whole thing, and Scott, I'm sure you might have another point here, but it's consistency over time. How to use social media to grow your audience? It's literally just post with your eyes shut as well. And what I mean by that is, obviously we're talking about monitoring results and having a strategy and pivoting when it's not working and stuff like that. But at the same time, you've got to be so numb and have so much belief in yourself to the point where you are posting, and sometimes, just because it's not working doesn't mean it doesn't work. And you've just got to weather that storm and keep going and keep going again. Don't stop, don't give up.
Yeah, I think to finalize, it sort of comes back to what is a key kind of life lesson, is just be patient. And it's so, like, I think as a child you never understand be patient, and then when you become an adult and you start exploring more, especially into like this side of things, of business and things, you understand patience a lot more. But again, what you were saying, like, consistency is key as well. I'll keep saying that consistency is key, because if you lose that drive, right, and then you're like, okay, I won't post for this week. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I don't post this week. Yeah, by doing that, you've probably got 10 people that follow you. Like, well, this business it hasn't got a long game because they've given up already. And it comes back as well to what we was giving an example of, like, see what your competition's doing, right? So, for example, let's say you're a clothing brand. How many clothing brands are out there, right? So monitor your competition and then bring it back to the whole being unique. Like, take notes of what your rivals are doing, and then also make your own notes of how you can be unique. Like, balance them out, put them together, add your consistency in there, and then you've got yourself a nice flow, and then 10 years down the line, you'll be the one that is still standing.